Hello and welcome to my first real content video in my new English EVE Online playlist. The theme of the day is mining, the basics of mining. Mining is maybe the easiest accessible profession EVE has to offer, which you can start right away after creation of your character without much preparation or requirements in terms of skill and equipment. And it is one of the main foundations of industry in EVE, which in turn is the main foundation of pretty much everything you can do in EVE. Why is that so? That is because of very many items you can buy on the marketplace in EVE, or in the majority of items are player made. There are some notable exceptions. For example, the blueprints you need to actually build stuff can be bought from NPCs, as can be skill books or command centers you need for the cash cow, which is planetary interaction. And of course, you can find a lot of stuff as loot from NPC ships you can blow up in space during missions or other encounters. But all the rest has to be made. And again, from all the stuff that has to be made and can be made, a lot of it needs to be built out of minerals, which can be mined out of asteroids. We are here in an asteroid belt, and besides from the nice view, you can see a lot of rocks floating around in space in a roughly semicircle banana-shaped formation. And you can find such asteroid belts in most systems, at least one, but usually quite a lot of them. And each of these belts contain a magnitude of these little buggers here. And from them, with the help of a mining laser, you can mine ore. And ore can be reprocessed into the minerals from which the EVE world is built. There's a second resource, salvage materials, from which many of the ship's modules are made, but minerals still are required for the majority of items. And even if some players in their shiny, high-tech, advanced ships tend to look down on the mining profession. You should never forget that even the shiniest, most expensive Tech 2 or Tech 3 ship contains at least partly the minerals that a humble miner has gained from these asteroids. It is a grind. This profession is a grind. It's EVE Online's typical MMO time sink, but it is a needed profession. It is a very important profession, and nobody should forget that. Especially since the most important category of item needs huge amounts of asteroid ore or the minerals reprocessed from them, and that are ships. Okay, then let's turn to the subject. What is mining? It is a lot more than just grabbing a mining laser and getting to work. If you want to be successful, don't waste your time when mining. In my opinion, successful mining can be defined as the act of mining the highest possible amount of the most valuable ore in the shortest possible time. And what this means we are going to look at now, and I'm going to divide this up into those catchwords I just mentioned, and we will look at what is the object of our activity, what is the most valuable ore. As always, or as often, there are several answers to this question, and one of them is obvious and the other is not, and as most often in EVE, the most obvious answer usually isn't the right one. So, because the obvious answer would be to just look and compare the prices you can find on the market. For example, we are in Galantis Space in HiSec, and there you will find feldspar, scordite and plagioclase in abundance, these three types of ore. And therefore, it's natural to look at the prices for those. And if you look at the highest selling price in Dodexy, the nearest trade hub, you can see that you will get roughly 13.25 ISK per unit of feldspar ore. If you look up scordite, you will find 18.82, assuming that you're undercutting the current cheapest sell order by the lowest possible amount. And if you look at plagioclase, it's already 61.93 ISK per unit. So the choice seems to be obvious. Plagioclase is the most valuable one, feldspar the least. However, the types of ore cannot be compared that easily because each of them has a different volume per unit. If you show the info and the attributes of the ore, you can see that, for example, plagioclase, 1 unit of plagioclase has a volume of 0.35 cubic meters. Scordite has 0.15 cubic meters and feldspar has 0.1 cubic meter. And this helps us not to calculate the value of a single unit, which is obvious from the marketplace, but the value of a cargo hold. So a combination of volume and per unit price. As you can see, my venture, my mining frigate, has an ore hold capacity of 5,000 cubic meters. This is a quite easy calculation, 5,000 cubic meters. If I fill it up only with feldspar, that would be 50,000 units of feldspar. And if I then multiply this by an assumed price of 13.25, I will get a value of 662,500 ISK for my cargo hold. Turning to scordite, I will first have to calculate the amount which fits into my cargo hold, because I cannot do that in my head, and then multiply this with an assumed profit of 18.82, and we see that even though the per unit selling price of scordite is higher than feldspar, the value of the cargo hold, if filled up only with scordite, falls behind feldspar. Looking at plagioclase, we divide 5,000 by 0.35 and multiply the result with 61.93 and see, yes, plagioclase is not only the most valuable per unit, but also in relation to the volume. Therefore, it seems to be a good idea to mine Plagio class and sell it. As you can see here from my overview, there's not only Plagio class, there's also Azure Plagio class, there's Rich Plagio class, and so all asteroids come in 3 variations. The basic one, Scordite Feldspar Plagio class, an intermediate variation, Azure Plagio class, for example. Where's the rest? Concentrated Feldspar Condensed Scordite. Those have a 5% increased minerals in them compared to the basic variant. And then you have Dense Feldspar, Massive Scordite and Rich Plagio class, which have a 10% increased amount of minerals when compared to the basic variant. So if possible, you should always try to find and mine from this best variant of the available ore, because they have only benefits, they have the same volume, and therefore we will set our mining lasers on this asteroid of Rich Plagio class. Now that we have decided which is the most valuable ore, at least in our system, in our belt, how are we going to achieve the highest possible amount in the shortest possible time? This is done by increasing the so-called mining yield. Mining yield is what our miners can suck out of the asteroid in one cycle, which is 60 seconds for mining lasers. As you can see from the tooltip, my mining laser Tech 2 variant, which I have fitted, can mine 181 cubic meter per 60 second times 2 lasers, 362 cubic meters per second. So if we bring up the calculator again, 362 cubic meters divided by the volume of 1 unit of Plagio class means that after one cycle, which is now over, I should have 1034 units of Rich Plagio class in my cargo hold. It is a little bit more because likely here are some rounding errors, or I cannot see the very true amount, but it's very close. So close as makes no matter. So, how do I increase this yield and thereby shorten the time I need to fill up one cargo hold of my ship? This is, as with many other activities in EVE, decided by a mixture of my skills and my equipment. I'm going to start with my equipment, and here with the most important piece, and this is my ship. I'm presently flying this Venture class mining frigate, which is the only dedicated mining vessel an Alpha clone will be able to fly. By dedicated mining vessel, I mean that this ship actually gets bonuses for mining. As you can see, every level of the mining frigate skill increases the mining yield by 5%. And also reduces gas cloud harvesting duration by 5%, but this is not part of the basic tutorial. It also has a roll bonus, 100% bonus to mining gas cloud harvesting yield, and it has an built-in increased warp core strength, which is very important if you try to use this ship in low sec or null sec or wormhole space to mine more valuable ore, because this can help you to flee from aggressive enemy players who try to warp scramble you. Mentioning low sec and null space, Not every ore can be found in every corner of the empires. There are some types of ore which are common everywhere, which are feldspar and scordite, but the other types of ore are common or existent in parts of some of the empire space. For example, plagioclase can be found in Galantis space, but regularly cannot be found in Caldari space, where they have pyroxeries which you cannot find in Galantis space, and so on. Then of course there are some more valuable ores, like for example jaspit, kernite, hedbergite, which you can only find in low sec, and the even more valuable stuff like bistort, crocite, arconor, and so on, which you can only find in null or wormhole space. Okay. So this ship gets roll bonuses, gets skill bonuses, and these increase the efficiency of my mining lasers. The mining lasers are obviously also very important. In fact, they are the only type of equipment that you absolutely need for mining. You can also buy a set of mining lasers and fit them on a destroyer or battleship. You will not get any mining bonuses, but you will get maybe a lot more turret slots. As you can see, when I pull up my fitting window, the Venture only has 2 turret slots and therefore can only fit 2 mining lasers, while the average destroyer may have 6 or 8 turret slots, and you could think, oh well, then this ship should have 3 or 4 times mining yield. Well, no, not exactly, because those ships don't get mining bonuses and roll bonuses. So with the roll bonus alone, this would count as 4 mining lasers on, let's say, a destroyer, because I have 100% roll bonus on the ship. But it's still a sizable amount of mining lasers you could fit on other ships. Maybe with the bigger ships like battleships, and they were used for this activity before or some years ago, this would maybe even viable, but a destroyer still has a very small cargo hold. While this ship, this dedicated mining vessel, has a special ore hold of 5,000 cubic meters, which is huge for a frigate class ship. Normal cargo hold only has 50 cubic meters, and yeah, that's it's enough for the Venture, but it's bad for any other kind of ship. But the ore hold of 5,000 cubic meters is very nice. And as I said, this is the only dedicated mining vessel you will be able to fly. So you have these mining lasers, and they come in several types and meta levels, which I have just pulled up here. The fitting requirements are not so much of an issue, at least after you have trained 1 or 2 fitting skills. But as you can see, the base mining yield goes up quite significantly from the basic miner 1 to the miner 2. It's an increase of 50% here alone. You will get a miner 1, you will get at least 2 ventures if you do the career agent missions as a newbie, and you should definitely do that to get the ship for free, to get the starting equipment. But you should really fast switch to the Gaussian scope mining lasers, because it already has 25% increase in efficiency and it is quite cheap. This is a valuable investment until you can fit miner 2. You can further increase your mining yield by fitting mining laser upgrades. And This gives another bonus of 5%. And if you look at the mining laser upgrade 2, 9%. And the requirements are mining upgrades 4, which I haven't trained on this account yet. And you will need mining level 4 to fit mining lasers tech 2. And both of these skills can be trained by alpha clones. Also, let's have a look at the mining frigate skills. So we have turned from equipment to skills now a little bit. You can skill the mining frigate skill up to level 4, which is also an additional 20% increase in mining yield. Besides that, there isn't much you can do to increase your efficiency skill-wise. As I said, mining upgrades up to level 4 would allow me to fit the mining upgrade level 2, which is great. But the only other skill that would actively increase my mining yield would be astrogeology, which is reserved for Omega clones. In terms of equipment, this is more or less the must-have. The mining laser upgrade here. The miner is the best you can fit here. And then maybe some 2 drones for the small drone bay for self-defense. This is enough to defend against reds in high sec and against players who want to gank you. You can forget the idea of defending this ship. You may be able to escape, but you will not be able to fight back. A survey scanner is nice to have. If you use it, you will scan the asteroids within its range, which is 15 kilometers, and show you the quantity in units that are inside each rock, so that you can select the juiciest target and get to work. Also, an afterburner is nice to quickly bridge the distance between the warp in point and your target of choice. And yeah, there's also space enough for a medium shield extender to get at least some little tank, which is enough, completely enough for reds, but as I said, for players it's no suitable defense. There are no mining rigs per se, which would increase, let's say, the efficiency of your mining lasers. You could fit shield resistance slots, you could fit something which increases your speed or agility, or which increases the efficiency of your drones. There's also one for mining drones, but alpha clones cannot use mining drones, they cannot learn the skill, so that's more or less pointless. So you don't absolutely need rigs on the Venture. Good. Regarding equipment and skills, that's almost all. What you could do is fit one of these implants. This one is for reprocessing, this one is for gas harvesting, and this one is directly for mining, but the prices tend to go up very steeply. This one is also for ice harvesting, and at least for the beginning miner, this may be too much of an investment. But that's it. Not much more you can do. If you think about upgrading to an alpha clone, to an omega clone in the future, then you may want to look at the ships of OR, Outer Rim Excavations, where you will find our neat little mining frigate here, and the good things that could come. Blocked off by the Omega sign are the expeditions frigates, the big brothers of our venture, who can fit covert ops cloaking devices, who have dedicated bonuses also for ice harvesting, for example. And here you will find the mining barges and their Tech 2 version, the exhumers, who can really get to work in asteroid or ice fields and get much more stuff out of the asteroids or ice cubes in the same amount of time as the venture can do. But sadly, this is something reserved for for Omega clones. So my cargo hold is full. I have now almost 14.3k units of rich plugio class with the estimated value shown below here. And that's more or less all you have to do. Fly to an asteroid belt, pick an object, start to mine, go semi-AFK. You would do well, nevertheless, to spend some attention to your overview, to look for rats popping up, or maybe for people with criminal or other flags in your local chat. But usually the best protection the venture has is its low value compared to the value of a ship that could potentially gank you. But of course in EVE this is no guarantee. The second step, if you want to be an industrialist, would now be to go to a station, whether it's an NPC station or a citadel or engineering complex, doesn't matter, and reprocess plugio class into the minerals it contains, which is titanium, pyrite and maxillon. And the high amount of maxillon in it is also the reason why rich plugio class demands such high prices at the market, at least currently, because all of these are subject to change. However, the thing is, you will suffer a lot of waste if you reprocess the freshly mined ore yourself, because the mining yield or the reprocessing yield of a reprocessing plant is based on several factors. At least the first one is the equipment of the station, which could be as low as 30%, which can be as high as 54% base yield in the reprocessing plant. And the majority of at least NPC stations is, I think, at 50%. So these three values exist. And in addition to that, quite a number of skills apply. Calculate your final reprocessing result. And these are, for example, reprocessing efficiency, and then you have special reprocessing skills for all kinds of asteroid ore, for example, feldspar here. But as you can see from the yellow dots, it's not possible for an alpha clone to learn them, only reprocessing 3. And this will result in a very poor reprocessing result, meaning you are almost always better off just selling your mined ore to the market and buying the minerals you need from the resulting profit than trying to reprocess the stuff yourself. There's something else I want to quickly show you, and this is compression. Each 100 units of any given ore can be compressed into 1 unit of compressed ore in a compression facility. You can find these in player-owned structures, star bases, but also on citadels or engineering complexes. If you pull up the structure browser, which you can find in the Neocom menu under Business, here it is, you can set it to show all structures anchored in the solar system, which will give you the player and the NPC stations, but also the player owned and controlled stations. And you only have to look at the reprocessing plant service icon. Every player controlled station like this one who offers reprocessing services also allows you to compress ore. And what the result would be, I'm going to show you now. After the short trip to this station. To better show the results, I will split this stack up once we have docked.
Docking request accepted.
So here we are. I'm going to split this stack. If you don't know how to do that, you hold down the left shift key and then just drag the ore to another place on your screen, and then you can enter the number how big the stack should be. I'm doing this twice. Now I have 2 of these stacks. So, and with a simple right click you can access the compress functionality of the reprocessing plant, and it just turns out 7,000 units of rich plugio class and 70 units of compressed rich plugio class. And if you look at the tooltip, this one is worth 480,000 ISK estimated, this one 549,000 just by compressing it. And if we put these back, you will also see that my cargo hold is no longer full. This is also lowered the volume of the whole stack by factor 100. The ore inside is still the same, so if you would try to reprocess this, you would get the same amount. Let's just remember 4501 maxillon. The same amount as if you would reprocess the uncompressed ore. As you can see with my skills, I have more than 45% of waste if I try to reprocess this ore. And this is a 50% base yield facility, which is on the brighter side of life. So, in my opinion, there's no reason not to use this small little advantage compressed ore has compared to non-compressed ore, and just try to get this little increase of your profit before you bring it to the market and sell it. Good. More or less, that's it. At least concerning the basics of mining. As I said, there's also low-sec mining, null-sec mining. There are such nice things like gas clouds and ice fields you can mine. There are barges and exhumers, and some of them will be part of future videos. But for this video, this is more or less all. The only thing I want to mention is that there are sometimes cosmic anomalies like these combat sites, which you can find without scanning them down, which contain special asteroid belts. And in these cosmic anomalies you can find ore you would normally only find in low sec. So if you start out to begin your mining day, pull up your probe scanner, have a look whether there's an anomaly in your system, and if there is, warp in, see what's left, and try to get a hold on the more valuable stuff. Okay, but this then rounds up my little rant about the basics of mining. I really hope that you enjoyed it, got some new information, and of course I also hope that you will return when I upload my next video. And if you liked it, just leave me a thumbs up, maybe a subscription, maybe tell someone else about this, and yeah, just return to see the next part of my little Alpha Clone adventure series. Until then, have a nice day and fly safe. Your Casuality.